Welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast, the podcast that's getting bloody sick of trying to think of something funny after we have got beat. This week on Heart and Hand, why did the chicken cross the road? Because he was fucked off at Rangers getting beat yet again. So welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name's David Edgar. I am your host, and I'm joined this week by the light and the dark of the Heart and Hand world. First up, from the netherworld, from Cynicism's Seven Circle, it's Mr. Ian Hogg.
Good evening, David, and I'd just like to say I'm glad you've taken my advice to record only 5 minutes tonight and simply stitch it into last week's pod. Yeah,
I think we'll save a bit of time here. It's just if people hear the odd kind of thing where it goes, and at that goal I thought that Dundee, it's because I've edited it badly, but here to hopefully provide what he does best, which is the sort of, shall we say, the devil's advocate, and he's often good at seeing things from a different angle, and that's why we love him. It's Mr. Alexander Staff. Hello, Alex.
Hi, David. How you doing? All good?
I'm all good, but mate, I was thinking Friday night was so depressing. Even you must have been struggling to come up with an optimistic take on it.
Near enough. Yeah, I was actually going to. I thought you might have started this one with a bit of a parental guidance warning, because I'd imagine Ian's got more than a few expletives to give us tonight.
We'll try and keep the expletives down just so it balances out, and it'll be like a regular amount. So might as well get straight into it then. There is a lot to get through this week. So first things first, Dundee, Friday night. First half, Rangers. First of all, the team selection, we didn't see returns for Alves or Cardoso. The only change to the side which lost at Hamilton was the return of Declan John. Although we did interestingly see Carlos Pena return to the bench, although for all the good it did. When the game started, I thought Rangers looked sharp and fizzy in the first half an hour. In fact, very similar to Hamilton game. Didn't create the clear-cut chances that we had in the first game. I thought Dundee settled a bit and the game became more open in the last 15 of the first half. However, for me, the pivotal moment came in the 43rd minute when Alfredo Morelos attempted to get on the end of a cross, was unlucky but collided with a post, and from there you could see he was struggling, and a few minutes later he was replaced by Eduardo Herrera. In the second half, Rangers completely lost that dynamism, and I struggled to see any shape or pattern to the play. For the first 15 minutes of the second half, I thought it became quite bogged down in midfield, and then there was a sort of sense of inevitability about what was going to happen, and sure as fate, from a free kick Dundee scored. Mistakes by Herrera and possibly Wilson getting in each other's way or confusing each other and not clearing it led to that goal. Rangers dug in, got a goal back through Josh Windass, an excellent strike from the edge of the box, but again young Elton, who, as I say, I've praised, so he needs criticised here. Tav failed to clear a ball, and there was 3 or 4 defensive blunders really in that Dundee move. Led to substitute Scott Allen putting through a very nice ball, but Declan John went to sleep, let his man get the run on him, and O'Hara got his second. And that was enough for Dundee to get the win. And to be honest, I don't think we ever really looked like coming back into it. That was my take on it. So first up, Ian, what was yours?
I thought ultimately we got what we deserved. There was a long spell of dominance in the first half, created very, very little, as you said. Anything we did create, we couldn't finish a dinner, very reminiscent of Hamilton. And then after Morelos went off, just nothing, really. As you say, they scored what was a tidy finish from the kid O'Hara. But, it's a ball into the box. We're all looking at each other. I think it bounced off Danny Wilson's foot, and it's stuck away. It's back to what we were talking about last week. No leadership, no real desire, no heart on the park. We get back into it. Tidy finish. I was about to give Windass pelters, but Boy Band did well. Good finish, and then as you say, topped off by further ridiculous defending from Elton John, playing the follow-up to I'm Still Standing That is, I'm standing still. And O'Hara nips in and scores. Dundee, worthy winners.
Honestly, I wish you'd kept that for subscription service. That was worth $1.99 a month just for that. Alex, that's my take. I agree with Ian's take, but if you saw something else, perhaps. I mean, this is why we have you on the show.
To be honest, as you said right at the start, it was difficult to be positive about it, just because it was a complete rerun of the weekend before, and you wouldn't think you'd be able to play 2 games in a row and miss sitters like that. It's I don't know, is Warburton back in the dugout, because that's exactly what we've done under him all the time. And it's strange. Candea should have scored when he was slipped through. Kenny Miller missed a couple of good chances at 0-0. In fact, he missed a chance at 1 each as well, I think, didn't he?
Yes.
It was quite good in the second half.
Yep.
See, at half time, I'll be honest, I'm sitting there thinking, we're actually looking quite good here. I know we hadn't scored, but I thought we were looking decent going forward. And guys like, Windass, Candace looking dangerous. Morelos, wee bit, not his best, but, we were creating a couple of chances that made me think he was finally going to get his goal. And then somehow the second half curse kicks in yet again. And I think that's been far too prominent this season.
Well, the thing about it is that for me, the Herrera, I've watched the game, live, and then I've watched it the next day with hopefully a bit of a clearer head, because you normally go through all the emotions because you know what happens. And it did kind of confirm to me my initial thought, which was the game for us turned. Now, given our second half performance, it may have anyway, but the game for us turned when Morelos went off. And it's something we've all been saying on this pod, regardless of individual views or of the team or whatever, is that Morelos is so important to us, even when he isn't scoring. And if you wanted a demonstration of that, I thought Friday night was absolutely perfect for that. And instead, on came Herrera, who... It's hard to make a case for, Ian. I think it's very difficult. He talk about standing still. I mean, big lad, as you say, not great in the air. And add to that, the Dundee players were able to then relax and focus on the guys who were making runs from deep, which they'd been unable to do in the first half. And suddenly we completely lost. And we also allowed them to come out with the ball, which is something they didn't do when Morelos was there in the first half. And I just think that the guy is vital to us, regardless of whether he's scoring or not.
The whole game went flat when Herrera came on. I had a look on Friday night after the game, and I knew he was a Mexican international, but I didn't realise he's got 9 caps and 3 goals. I think, who the fuck is he playing? Greenland. So he came on, and the whole shape fell apart, the whole urgency, that any pace, any whatever, because as you say, they were allowed to come out and press the game a bit and start playing passes. He's a puzzle, to be honest. He's almost like the striker that has to have a foil. He's almost sure, it's 2 men up front, him and one other that's going to do all the running and what have you, and the big guy's all about the knockdowns. When he was winning the headers, it was the age-old thing on Friday night. When he was winning it, or when he was, doing his Gordon Jury second touch a tackle routine, no one was there to support him. So he was effectively just knocking it on to a defender. It was actually painful to watch at times.
Alex, as Ian says, this is a guy with 9 caps for Mexico, and all joking aside, that's a pedigree. You don't get to that level without having something about you. Whereas his last few appearances, he hasn't looked like a footballer at all. And I don't buy into the players don't put in effort. No player would rather lose than win. I mean, that's nonsense. Nobody would be like that. But you do have to ask that if you look at the players that Pedro bought, I think in the summer he's looking towards a 4-2-3-1, and certainly that's what we started out with in Luxembourg. Where does this guy fit in?
He was always supposed to be a bit of a link-up player. When he's back to goal, I actually think he's not too bad. Especially when the ball in his feet, his link-up tends to be decent. Problem is, we've not seen anywhere near the best of him, and you won't when all he's getting is the odd sub appearance, and then he's flung in at half time in a game. Go and sort that one out for us. I always think it's harsh to pick out one player when a team just dips the way.
Don't worry, we've got others. Don't you
I always
worry.
think that's harsh. Football's one of those strange sports, team sport, but as fans, we're all very prone to just speaking about the one player who's messing everything up, We've not seen anywhere near the best. Well, it's either we've not seen anywhere near the best of him, or he is every bit as poor as everybody suspects. I'm inclined to go with the former, but I know most would probably think he's just a poor player. Pedro's plan was to have a team that was going to be strong at attacking crosses, especially for the right-hand side. They would have a player coming in off the left. Remember him last season all the time, we need to be more aggressive in the left-hand side. He kept saying that all the time. He's always looking for a player, like Windass has been doing for us recently, coming in off the left-hand side, crosses coming in from the right-hand side. He wanted to have Carlos Pena, who only real strength is attacking a ball in the box. They wanted him making late runs. They wanted Herrera being the sort of player in there to mix things up. And as it turned out, Morelos was good at that and could score goals, so Herrera wasn't really required. That was his kind of attacking plan. He didn't have much else going. His midfield signings were, even Dorrans. I know Dorrans can be a great player on his game, but the last couple of years he's been more defensive minded and sat a bit deeper. His midfield signings were more about that, whereas he wanted the things to be width and bodies in the box. So that was where Herrera was supposed to fit in, and obviously it's just not worked.
At the risk of repeating ourselves from last week, Ian, I thought that Wilson and Holt we'd spoken about had a kind of upsurge in form, and then an upsurge in form. It was really based on Murrayfield, and then they dropped back down again and sort of reverted to the mean in terms of the level of their performances. And I was struck the other night that it seemed to be Ryan Jack who'd been given licence to get forward, which he did a few times, but you could kind of see when he got to the box that it wasn't something that came naturally. And that did puzzle me, because Holt, for all his flaws, is a guy who has a track record of being able to finish. Is this the manager experimenting, or is this the manager maybe thinking Holt's not been playing well, so he just needs to do the kind of more straightforward job? Because I was puzzled as to see Ryan Jack in that role.
I thought throughout the game, David, the pair of them interchanged. In the second half, it became more Ryan Jack going forward. I do wonder, with Holt's lack of football recently, I do wonder whether it's just a case of, he played last weekend, he played Friday night, he was maybe starting to blow his arse a wee bit, don't know. If it's about tactics, then don't play him. We're back to that kind of square peg, round hole routine that, frankly, Ali McCoist had, Stuart McCall had, Mark Warburton had, Pedro had at times, Graeme Murty's now got it. It puzzled me, especially when I think Ryan Jack, it was a decent enough shot, but you could see in the replay in the second half, I think he shot just wide, and his face looked as if it's the rabbit in the headlight routine. It was just almost if this is a target, smashing, if not, get me the fuck out of here.
Alex, we had too many players. We're not good enough to carry players having bad nights. I don't even mean not having 100%. I mean just having bad nights. And I thought that Declan John was excellent going forward, but pretty poor defensively. I thought Tav had a nightmare. His passing was off. His crossing was off. It just didn't work at all. Into the midfield, I thought that, as I say, Jack, I thought looked uncomfortable. Holt was a non-factor. Miller, again, had returned to the kind of wandering minstrel performance, where he started off on the left, and we were told that it was going to be a 4-2-3-1, and it did start off like that with Miller on the left, but quickly degenerated, and that's the term I would use, degenerated into something different, and at times I would struggle to tell you what. And by the end, when Hardy came on for Candeas, who was another one who just was nowhere near his level, we were a shapeless mess at that point.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head, actually, as to the biggest difference between us and that lot at the other side of the city as such. We can't grind out a result when we've got too many players hitting 5, 6 out of 10. They can play poorly and still get the draw if it's really bad, or scrape a 1-0 win like they did recently against Ross County, despite the fact they were howling. They still won the game. We just can't do that anymore. We don't have the quality of squad for it. We certainly don't have the quality of squad when we're missing players like Alves, Dorrans,
Morelos for a half.
And Morelos having to come off at half time. Lee Wallace isn't there. We certainly don't have it when we've got that many players out. So, that is the biggest difference. I think, you're right. You can carry one or two not having a good game. In fact, you expect one or two any given game not to be great. You're lucky if you get a handful of games where everybody plays well in a season. But that was, especially in the second half, just a real dip. And you've got to say as well, see, for all the talk of how well we played in the first halves, both against Hamilton and to a lesser extent Dundee, it doesn't really, you can't really say that when the chances are being missed,
Yeah, it's pointless.
It's just that's the main point, and it doesn't really fit.
No, I mean, yeah, because you're right. If you're making 9-10 chances and not scoring, or you're making 1 or 2 chances and not scoring, you get the same result. And unfortunately, I thought defensively, this is again so much about psychology in at this level. We spoke about it, that this was a free hit for Dundee. We spoke about it in the preview show, myself and Stephen, and I think we even spoke about it last week on the main show, that it was a free hit for Dundee, even though they'd been struggling, even though that they were at the bottom of the league and 1 point at it, whereas our lads looked terrified. And I honestly believe had Dundee been playing a Motherwell or a St Johnstone, they'd have looked terrified. And there were times in the first half that their crowd were on them, and I was speaking to my friends who were watching the game and saying, we need to score now because their fans are ready to turn on them. You can hear it. Any misplaced pass. But we didn't. And their players visibly grew in confidence as the match went on. And around about the 55th, 60th minute, I think that Dundee 1 to 11 players on the bench, management team, suddenly thought they don't have anything. They don't have anything at all going forward now. And they came forward and they started putting pressure on us. They started applying much more physicality in and around the box, which we struggle with, and I think it would be silly to... We can argue about whether the SPFL is too physical a league, but it would be nonsense to argue that we respond well to it, because we simply don't. And then you could see them thinking, even at 1-1, I mean, I mentioned this the other night on the vlog, that at 1-1, Neil McCann puts on a substitute to try and win the match. Graeme Murty was caught on camera chewing his hip, and that was the difference, because we are paralysed with indecision and fear, not just in the team. I mean, it's all through the club, you can see that, but the difference in those last 20 minutes was one team believed and the other team did not, and I thought that was absolutely apparent, Ian.
Aye, and I think, Alex, you said earlier, it's maybe unfair to pick on players. I actually thought the player that almost summed up our performance, and I really like him. I think he's done well for a kind of journeyman player, but it's Daniel Candace on Friday night. And we said last week, David, there was a real lack of good decision making, and the final balls were poor. I think I used the stat of 50 plus crosses against Hamilton, and we rarely threatened. Friday night, it was almost as if Daniel Candace had thought, fuck it, hold my beer. And I think he got the ball past the first defender once in the entire night. And when he gets subbed, the substitution summed up the entire team. I've rarely seen a guy run off the park as fast as that. It was a la Rickson at Parkhead.
He struggled badly. But as I say, I mean, the whole side did. And when you're not a great side, and as you mentioned there, Alex, and when you're shorn of players, right, and you're going through a crisis of confidence, if you get a spell in a game, especially at the start, I couldn't have asked that Rangers team coming off the defeat from Hamilton to come out with a better attitude. But they've got to take their chance, because as soon as it gets in that they've missed 1, 2, 3, you can see them going, oh no, not again. And that you mentioned earlier, the second half curse. After a while, it's not a curse. It's in their head. And what worries me is it's starting to get in the heads of the opponents as well, who are thinking, just get this mob to half time, because they fall apart in a second. And it's almost becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy.
You're right, yeah. You used the word inevitability about when you were talking earlier about your take on the game, and I think that's that's the most damning part. We as fans can be a little bit, for want of a better phrase, drama queen. You know what I mean? We can watch a game and get a little bit, too worked up about the fact that we're not playing well or whatever. But players playing as they did in the first half, as dominant as Rangers were pretty much in the first half, and I know we didn't create great chances, but we were by far the better team. And to then lose that much confidence, not only in yourself but in your teammates, it's so clear they've no confidence in each other. That shouldn't be happening. Us as fans, we should be getting made to look stupid. Quite often when we get, we're definitely losing this, sure, we're going to score a couple of late goals, but it just never happens now. If we sit there at half time or 60 minutes in or whatever and think this isn't looking good today, it's almost certainly going to go that way.
Yeah.
And that's pretty damning. Now, I would say this, and I don't know how you guys, so I'd be interested to see what you feel. I would never say losing away to a Dundee side that's bottom of the league is acceptable, but had this been a normal season in home form, we would have taken 5 wins, a draw and a defeat as our away form so far.
Oh God, yeah, 100%.
We would have taken that. We'd still be annoyed at losing to Dundee, but we'd have taken that. But because our home form's been absolutely chronic, what might be a kind of blip in a away form game suddenly becomes a major issue,
Well, absolutely, and I mean, you're right. I mean, had we been doing at home what we should have been doing at home, then our away form would have been getting lauded, quite rightly. But at the moment, the real concern is that the away form was pretty much the only thing that was holding the season up, and now it's gone. Now that record is away, and that's another thing that's been chipped away from the side. And you're so right about the lack of confidence. The thing that annoyed me most about Hamilton, also Dundee, but definitely Hamilton, was the minute that Hamilton scored, Rangers stopped doing everything they'd done in the first half that meant that they'd created all those chances. And that I found baffling because, lads, OK, they've scored. It was a mistake by one of your players, right? Shit happens. But if you keep doing what you were doing to dominate the match, then who knows? Whereas instead, they just went into immediately, with 40 minutes to go, a blind panic. And I think that happens too often. And we can talk about a lack of leaders, but surely, 13, 14-year-olds in a school game don't necessarily need to be led all the time. These are professional footballers. With the exception of McCrory, they're not children, they're not kids. And I just find this immediate reversion to panic mode or, oh no, this is happening again, really, really appalling from professional footballers.
Again, can't disagree with that at all, David. It's if our home form had been significantly better, and because of the away form, Pedro would still be here. It's as simple as that. I don't think the players are now, I think, playing infinitely worse than they were under Pedro Caixinha, and I was a big believer that Pedro's time had come to an end. I think you're right, David, in terms of professionalism and professional pride for a professional footballer when it's their day-to-day job, just to largely forget actually what their job is and what doing the basics means. Is that for me it's baffling, but it's also just it's beyond frustrating. It's I was always taught as a footballer from a really early age that when the chips are down, you do the basics right. You get back to the basics, you do the basic stuff, you do the 5-yard passes, you help your teammates, you're there to receive the ball. And we go a goal down and none of that happens. It's almost as if none of them have been schooled in the game of football. It's utterly baffling. It's also fucking beyond frustrating.
Alex?
There's not much you can disagree with there at all. I think that the issues lie, as I was saying, that lack of confidence. I don't think these guys particularly rate each other.
Yeah.
I don't, and that includes now Graeme Murty. I can't imagine. We speak about Candace there, for example. He's had a few clubs. He's been around. He's played in quite a few different leagues. I can't imagine he's ever really experienced a team like this or a management situation like this where he's you just get such little confidence in the guys around them, you know. And that's when a team comes to the fore, is when they're facing a bit of adversity. You know, who steps up, who's willing to do it, and that's when a team comes in. And at the moment, we've got a bunch of individuals, which is fine when they're winning, but you know, the minute they go down, they just don't want to fight for each other. They might fight for themselves a wee bit. Some of that happens. They might just have a poor night, but they don't really want to fight for each other, and that's concerning, because you know, the first thing you should be able to do, you know, with a squad is at least get a bit of togetherness. If you can't get that, then you've got no chance.
That's a really good point, that, Alex, on the not fighting for each other but fighting for themselves. In recent weeks, we've seen, I can't remember what game it was, but Candace was almost spoiling for a fight. It was Motherwell. Yeah. Candace was spoiling for a fight with anyone with a pulse. On Friday night, Holt, now granted, I forget the guys, it was a jailbird guy that tackled him and gave him a nibble.
The guy with immunity from punching policemen.
Indeed. You know, and Holt immediately squares up to him. Very, very few people were going in backing him up. But for me, that's the frustration's out, and that's the only way that they can channel it.
Which is, again, you know, you've used the word baffling, because, lads, channel that frustration positively. Channel that frustration into your play. Your play is missing an edge. You know, your play's predictable and it's safe and it's being read and overcome by the opposition. So bring that edge to your game, and it doesn't translate into that. As you say, it translates into these kind of daft situations, which are just beyond pointless. But, you know, we've mentioned them there, and we do have to talk about this, because the Graeme Murty interview after the match, which he did with Rangers TV, when I have genuinely never seen a manager look like that after a match. And for those of you who haven't seen it, it's on the club website, and I would strongly suggest you check it out. I know we don't want to read too much into body language, Alex, but I think, you know, if you saw a guy like this in the street, you would go over and see if he was all right. Am I right?
Yes, I mean, you would.
His chin was wobbling, his lip was wobbling. He looked like he was either going to burst into tears or had just stopped and was trying to make sure he didn't start again. And he looked bereft. I mean, he looked utterly bereft. And it was a disappointing defeat, and I was angry, but this is a guy who has put his hat in the ring for this job. And if a defeat is going to do that to him, I'm sorry. I mean, I think for his own good, then maybe he should think about staying in the job he's in.
I agree, definitely. Yeah, it's hard, because obviously Graeme Murty's a very likeable guy, and we certainly appreciate what he's done for the club, not just for the youths, obviously, but any time he's had to step up to the first team. But that alone, you know, you wouldn't even need to look at results or anything else. That alone tells you he's not the man for the job full time. We kind of knew that anyway. That's definitely the final nail in that coffin. Because it would break him. It would break him. Imagine how he'd feel after a defeat. Imagine he'd been in charge and that lot scalped us at Ibrox last season.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's...
We'd have had to have taken the shoelaces off him.
That was the thing. I mean, it was that bad. And if you've ever had to deal with someone... I think we've all been in workplaces where someone has, you know, been bullied or whatever, or, you know, just been bollocked. I worked in an industry where it was standard. And you see people sitting afterwards, and you can tell on their face, and that's what he looked like. And I you know, on a human level, you certainly feel for the guy, because that must be intolerable pressure. But he is wanting to step up to do that on a weekly basis. And I do wonder, though, Ian, if there was more to it than just it was a defeat at Dundee, because I think that when Murty's gone in this time, he said to them, especially after Murrayfield, look, I want this job. And they've thought, oh good, well Graeme's fine, Graeme, especially 2 wins at the start, great, he can handle it. And I think that even though Hamilton was bad, in many ways worse, because it was at home and it was Hamilton, that he's thought after Hamilton, I can still do this. If we beat Dundee and we beat Aberdeen, I can get this job. If I'm sitting with 5 wins out of 6, I can write Hamilton off as an aberration, because it kind of was, right? You know, we missed glorious chances. And I can write that off as one of those days, but look at the rest of my results. And I think that Friday night was a guy who realised this is gone now. There's no chance. And there's no chance in the future either, if I need to come back in and do this again, that I have lost the chance to go in straight at that level as being the manager of Rangers.
I like to think that there was no chance in the first place, certainly after Hamilton. But you're right. Friday night we saw 2 things. We saw a guy under a ridiculous amount of pressure, and I mean truly ridiculous amount of pressure. You've only got to look at his face during the interview.
But Ian, is it I mean, that's the pressure a Rangers manager is under. And again, we can talk about whether or not it should be, but that's not going to change. For
Graeme Murty as a guy, that was a ridiculous amount of pressure. He clearly is not either, you know, now or might be in the future and all the rest of it, but right now he's never managed a club in his life. He's been a youth team coach. He's stepped up. He did reasonably well in his first spell. I think he lost a couple of games, drew at Parkhead. This time the wheels are falling off. He's not good enough. I think that's plain for everyone to see, David. He maybe didn't realise that himself, so there's inevitably a bit of self-pity and all the rest of it. We will invariably talk about the board later, and I'm bloody sure we will. What I will say about Friday is we've got a youth team coach there. Pretty much during the interview, I think both the one on BT and the one on Rangers TV, pretty much begging the board to appoint a manager. Certainly, what he's, you know, the way he came across in the BT interview, Jesus Christ, you know, it was, you know, stay away from sharp objects, and a basic, I think a basic right of an employee is to be treated with respect by the people that employ you. And Friday night highlighted for me that we've got a guy who he maybe believes his own self-hype, and he's trying to be promoted beyond his own capability. Who's not been in a job that's definitely the case? Yeah. Now, 9 times out of 10, said person doesn't get promoted because their bosses realise that they're shooting above their current capability. That's just treating them. That's actually treating people with the respect that they deserve. They maybe don't see it themselves. Friday night, honestly, that summed up for me everything that's wrong about the club on and off the park.
Alex, he's going to be in charge for. It certainly appears he's going to be in charge for the 2 Aberdeen games, and maybe, you know, there may be an announcement before that, or maybe, you know, it could change. We know that, but as we are recording this, it looks like Graeme Murty is going to be in charge for these next 2 games. I think that is a case of someone being hung out to dry, because, you know, that you saw that this is not a bloke. How is he going to be able to go from that on Friday night to lifting a whole squad on the Monday morning and then shaping them and preparing them from Wednesday? And if he thought the atmosphere at Dens was bad, if they put in a performance like that at home to the Sheep, it's going to be far worse. And this guy, who doesn't, you know, deserve it, but has unfortunately put himself into this position and been placed in this position, and because he has, as I said he wants to be the manager, he does have to be judged as the potential manager. And our fans, if that happens again on Wednesday night, our fans are going to make Dundee look like, you know, a kind of mild disappointment.
I would imagine so. I suppose the Kilmarnock game that Pedro lost his job was disastrous, yet there was a sort of resigned feeling. Hamilton, there wasn't a very vociferous reaction, but just given it's Aberdeen, you would imagine if they score early or the game's not looking good, that the place will be pretty poisonous, for want of a better word. But I want to just go back slightly on something Ian said there about, Graeme Murty being under an immense amount of pressure. As in terms of being Rangers manager, the position he's in at the moment, given that he knows that regardless of what he does, he's got a safe job back with a development squad, and really no one's expecting that much from him. It's about as low pressure as you can get in that role.
Yeah.
Yet, as we've seen on Friday, he kind of looks as though it might have broke him a wee bit already. There is a lack of leadership all round. I don't know how Murty turns it around. I would have loved to have seen what training was like. I'd imagine they maybe come back in on the Sunday after playing on the Friday. I would just like to have seen, what the reaction was. Is there a bit of anger there? Is he getting any anger to give them? Did they respect him enough that if he got angry, they would actually take it seriously? All of that, I'd love to have known, because the game on Wednesday has the potential to be absolutely disastrous if the heads are as far down as we are worried they are.
That's a good point, and Ian, I think that what Alex touches on there is, for me, Graeme Murty is a substitute teacher, and the class have decided day one that they can take the piss, and no amount of pink slips or threats or go and see the Heady is gonna change that. That they're waiting for the real teacher to come back, or a new teacher to come in, and then there will be that level of respect. But they've decided that they don't need to bother with this guy. And with all due respect to Graeme Murty, and I am a great believer in men showing their emotions and whatnot, and we shouldn't bottle it in, but after seeing that in this macho bullshit world of football, he is dead in the water in terms of having credibility to bollock them.
Can you imagine? So, imagine training, Alex, like you say, and you've got 25 guys in who are, the vast majority are under 30. The vast majority will be ridiculously immature. They're footballers.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the giggling behind their hands at Graeme Murty when he walked into the changing room? That will have happened. It happens in every, like I said about earlier on, it happens in every job everywhere. You laugh at the poor cunt who has got absolutely no authority, thinks he has, tries to instill that authority on others, and simply then is just either behind his back or to his face has the piss ripped out of him. Well, that'll have been Sunday.
Well, Alex, I mean, you know more about psychology than me. For those of you who don't know, Alex, psychology grad, very interested in the subject. I mean, there is this phenomenon of people despising the weak, or what they perceive to be the weak, and especially in times of turmoil. You'll probably know the correct name for it, but is that a worry that we have at the moment, that the players... Footballers make excuses for poor performances. Footballers, I mean, don't take my word for it, go and read Sir Alex Ferguson's book on it, and he'll tell you that footballers will blame everything other than themselves for poor performances. So, are we entering a stage where there's a situation where the players are going, this idiot, no wonder we're getting beat, and we're going to face the team that we're battling with for second, let's be honest, twice in a few days, with that undercurrent at training?
I think so. Yeah, I think that undercurrent's been getting into the last couple of games. We've got a bit of a bounce against Hearts and Partick Thistle. Decent performances. We said ourselves at the time that the Hearts performance was probably the best of the season so far. But I think there is this, as you say, it's perfect. It's a perfect storm. They just get to turn around anything that's going on at the club right now and say, that's why I'm not playing well. And that's what's going on. That's the problem right there. And they're not looking in the mirror at all. And there might be a few of them who have got the character to do that. Kenny Miller being one of those guys that can look himself in the mirror. This is a season too far for him now. So even though he's potentially trying to step up and drag others with him, he doesn't have it anymore. He doesn't have, the ability now to do it consistently. You'll maybe get one good game in 10 out of him, which is all we've had this season, because it's just too far for him now. So, if the rest of the players aren't willing to do it either, they're just going to point to, well, I'm not going to listen to that guy. He's rubbish anyway. He's useless as a manager. This club's taking far too long to make any decisions.
And that's the reason I'm playing badly. That's the mentality. Do you think, Alex, that's why we're seeing the Holts and the Wilsons? Because They are, if you like, guys who, Murty knows they're Scottish. It's easier just to put them in as opposed to maybe guys that are a wee bit more difficult potentially to deal with. Because for me, it's baffling to take Pena and then when you desperately need a goal, not to chuck him on. And for me, putting Pena on the bench was for show.
It probably was, yeah. It was like I think it was almost as if they'd been listening to all the speculation and just decided, we'll stick him on the bench just to keep people happy. Because as you say, if you're chasing a goal at any time, why would you not bring the guy on at least?
Yeah.
Ryan Hardy's shown in the last few games that he's just not there yet. He's not there to come on off the bench with 15, 10 minutes to go and be a threat. We've seen that. So, why bother with taking the internationalist that's worth a couple of £1 million if you're not going to use him? It did seem a bit showy. I think, overall on that point, just the blame, the excuse culture in football, we are really in danger of going down that road in a big way at the moment, because there seems to be a lack of respect all round.
Ian, we need to talk about the upcoming fixture. Obviously, we won't have time to preview it this week on the pod. So we have a fixture on Wednesday night against Aberdeen. No longer having our proud long unbeaten record against them, unfortunately. But Aberdeen have been in pretty poor form themselves recently. Whether or not affected by the McInnes speculation and speaking about excuse culture, whether their players were clinging to that. But after McInnes, Milne and then McInnes came out and distanced himself, people have said ended speculation, I don't know about that, but distanced himself from the Rangers job. They got a positive reaction against Kilmarnock at the weekend. If you're just looking at this on form and you're not looking at it on, we're Rangers and we're Rangers fans and we're going to be uber staunch and just ignore everything, they're the favourites here.
I fear we might get humped on Wednesday. You'll be hugely surprised to hear that, then. Genuinely, because of that downward spiral that we're on, Murty not being respected, the players will inevitably be fucking laughing behind their hands, behind his back. Add then the McInnes factor, and the Aberdeen players will be wanting to show Rangers just, he's our boss, but also show McInnes what he's currently got. Aberdeen will be fired up. It's Rangers in Glasgow, they'll be fired up anyway. And frankly, I think they know that we're there for the taking. And I think I do fully expect Aberdeen to be massively fired up for the game. Generally, when you've got a team who's above you in the league and they're that fired up and you're not playing well, generally 9 times out of 10 only ends one way. I fear a drubbing. I hope it doesn't happen, but I do think they could score a few goals.
Right, Alex, staunch this up a bit, otherwise I'm going to just end the pod now and stick on the Thornley boys for the last 20 minutes after Surrender Monkey Hog there gave up. Make a case for why make a case for why he's talking out his arse, and we're going to win.
We went in under Murty last season with a squad that was weaker than this, and lost away to Inverness and Dundee. Can't remember.
That's not helping.
Listen.
Right, okay.
We then turned that round into a hard-fought win against St Johnstone at home before we went to Parkhead and got the draw. Possibly. I know it seems so unlikely, but there might just be the reaction we spoke about. That might just have happened. There might be a little bit of anger in them, annoyed at the last couple of games not doing themselves justice, knowing that they need to be up for this. There's no coasting a game against Aberdeen in this situation when Aberdeen are this strong. They maybe did come out with the wrong attitude against Hamilton to some extent, or did Dundee, a little bit too lax. Possibly. There won't be any of that on Wednesday. So yes, confidence is low. Yes, it's unlikely, but crowd fired up. Early lucky goal. I'll take a deflection off Carlos Peña's shot glass to the first goal, man. And when you get Ibrox fired up, you just never know, because I think the biggest frustration we've all got this season is there's some clear ability in some of these players.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in that. Some people are really quite negative about the state of the squad, and I know we've still got a good bit to go to be where we want to be, but there's some clear ability in there, and if we can just get that, to be honest, we need one performance, to be brutally honest, because going away in the Sunday is a completely different story, and Aberdeen haven't lost 2 games in the league in a row for over a year, which I think in the space of that year we've done a number of times. So, do you know what? Screw it. I'm going to let my heart rule my head, and we're going to win this one on Wednesday night.
Thank you for doing that, and for taking that bullet for me, because that means that I can go for a draw, which is what I think it'll be. I think that we'll nick a 1-1.
And I do David, I do genuinely hope that we win. There's a certain amount of irony in actually gaining 3 in a row when it's fucking defeats. I genuinely don't want that to happen. Alex, I salute your eternal optimism.
Alex spoke there about something that I think is interesting coming into this game, and it leads us on to our next topic. That can you make changes? Can anything change during this period of stasis when we don't have a new manager? The club at the moment is inert, and everything seems to have ground to a halt. How can we reasonably expect, and I'd like both your takes on this, how can we reasonably expect anything to change if nothing changes? I'll go with you first, Alex.
We can't reasonably expect it. We simply can't. We can hope for it, but we can't reasonably expect it. But the question then becomes, are the last 2 games indicative of where we are under Murty, or were his first 2 games indicative of it? Because it's not like all 4 games have been a disaster.
No, but but if you were tracking the pattern, if you were looking.
Well, it depends what the pattern is. It could be 2 wins, 2 defeats, 2 wins, 2 defeats. I know that's all. It's all a bit. It's just, if we're going to apply that sort of logic to it, then it doesn't naturally follow that just because we lost the last 2 games we'll lose the next one. In fact, as Ian just pointed out, it would be, actually very rare for us to lose 3 in a row.
Yep.
We don't do it that often. So in some ways, then when you start applying a bit of stats and a bit of logic, that's where that's the only real case you can make for a change. It's sheer law of averages. But everything else would seem to be stacked against us, definitely.
Solid logic there, Ian, or is Alex grasping at more straws than Wurzel Gummidge having a wank?
I'll go with the straws, I think. Yes, there's stats, logic, past performance over however many years and all the rest of it. The fact of the matter is, currently, we are shite and at the lowest of the low in terms of confidence. Doesn't bode well.
Right, lads, thank you very much. This is the Thornley Boys, and they'll play it. No. It is tough because I am a great believer in the old, the old Einstein quote of if you keep doing the same things, you'll keep getting the same results. And at the moment, that does seem to be happening for us. So that does concern me, given who it's against, given But I would like to think that as professionals, that they will want to give a reaction, and Ibrox will be fired up. You won't have those long periods of silence that you got against. Hopefully in a positive way, but you might be negative. But it'll be, that kind of atmosphere. Midweek against the Sheep under the lights. It'll be, and I'm hoping that the players can respond to that. Now, really, the only movement on the managerial front was a story that actually first appeared on the blog 4 Lads Had a Dream, which Alex is one of the co-founders of, although it wasn't you who wrote the story, I believe, Alex.
No, it was not. No, it wasn't myself. No.
Distancing himself from that. But there was nothing actually factually incorrect about the story, because what the story said was that Ladbrokes had issued a press release. Ladbrokes had issued a press release stating that they'd closed the book on Alex McLeish, of all people, becoming the new Rangers manager. And to be fair to your co-writer Stevie, that was all he reported. But I think that the immediate and vociferous negative reaction against it, people conflated that to him saying that Alex McLeish was a certainty to become the next manager. Now, it is a rumour that has swirled about for a bit, And I stress at this point it is only a rumour. Bookies have suspended betting on it, but bookies these markets are tiny, and a guy putting on 500 quid or 20 guys putting on 500 quid between them massively affects those markets. Plus, you have to remember it's free publicity for a bookie. A bookie does something like this, the press go, woohoo, a story, especially at a time when there's nothing, doesn't appear to be anything happening. However, there have been these rumours before. Alex McLeish has came out immediately and said, I haven't been contacted by anyone from Rangers, there's nothing in it. I think that the interesting thing here is, first of all, whether or not Alex McLeish is going to be the man. I don't think he is, but I think the fans would have accepted it had it happened the day after Pedro got fired. I think given 5 weeks, we're going to go away and search for the perfect candidate. If they deliver Alex McLeish, there's going to be riots. But I think that what was interesting to me about this whole farrago was there's such a lack of anything at the moment that there is this massive vacuum and people are filling it with anything, and anything that goes into it explodes immediately and catches fire, and that is going to continue and get worse and get more passionate and get more varied, and that cannot be good for the board. It cannot be good for the board's credibility long term, because each one of these, we'll call them incidents of new manager panic, speculation, whatever, every time one of these things happens, I think it erodes confidence in the board, because it creates a negative image in people's heads, and for right or for wrong, the more of these that happen, the more negative imagery that's placed in people's head, it's harder and harder to bring that back. And this goes back to what we were saying last week about the board are bringing this down on themselves when they really didn't need to, Alex.
I was actually going to suggest letting Ian go first, because I think he's busting to have a go here, but don't worry, I'll firstly defend Stevie to say that, as you said, he didn't actually say Alex McLeish is definitely going to be the next manager or anything like that. He was simply saying, here's what's happened. Got in with the press release before it actually came out, and like any blogger would do, threw that up as something they knew, Yes, you're correct, because there is no real solid news coming from anywhere. I mean, even the likes of Sky Sports, BBC, they've got nothing. They've got absolutely nothing. So anytime something like this does come out, it gets a bit of an overreaction. The tweets and stuff about Alex McLeish being a possibility were unreal. There was loads. In fact, I believe Ian would have been one of the first people on Twitter with that. And yeah, because, as you say, because there's very little else official, the club's not saying anything, they're not leaking anything to anyone. I mean, that's an age-old trick to have a couple of preferred journalists and let them kind of dictate the story almost without coming out with anything official. They're not even doing that. So it is eroding confidence. The AGM on Thursday could be crazy if this continues, or if someone like Alex McLeish is hired. In fact, the latter would probably be even worse. Ian?
Sometimes I get a bum rap, to be honest, David, for being this down in the mouth, cynical, pessimistic bastard.
If you keep predicting Aberdeen are going to beat us, then you'll get a rap on the bum.
Fair enough. I'll take you back to the April live pod. So today, Monday, 27th November, 32 days since the manager was sacked. We've talked about succession planning before. Unless Mr. King's going to pull out a mega rich Qatari prince, there's probably more chance of Shergar winning next year's national. It's almost 5 weeks. Almost 5 weeks. We talked about the players not doing the basic.
The day of the AGM board, symbolically is 5 weeks.
Yeah. The board are not doing the basics, It's almost as if it's a sick bet between them. Can we do it worse than Everton? So today, yes, I was working in Sheehog today, and it did spark a little bit of fanny holding panic, and that was myself included, Alex. when the betting was suspended. And in the blind panic, I tweeted about the holy trinity of shite and doomed appointments. Davy Moyes to West Ham, Alex McLeish to Rangers. So presumably the next would be Howard Kendall to Everton. And then I remembered that he was dead.
Dead, yes.
So quickly changed it. But, as all football fans do, and, yes, I'm a cynical pessimist, but then I started rationalise it, thinking, Big Echo get a bounce, blind panic. So I think I joked about it off air to you last week, David, but, we want a strong leader, preferably one with money. Robert Mugabe is still available.
Yes, and Mark knows him well. But we go into this AGM and the mood is ugly, let's be honest. The fans are not going to be massively swayed, I think, by any sort of PR bluster. Where I advising the board, my advice would be hold your hands up, be honest, admit you made mistakes, do the mea culpa, don't get defensive, don't get combative. I understand, because you always, if you're in a position when people criticise you, it's tempting to circle the wagons and point at what you did do, and I feel that the board might point to decent accounts and movement, Sports Direct deal, all that kind of stuff. But I think that the only way to sort of stem this would be to completely hold our hands up, give as much of a truthful account as to why it's taken this long as possible, i.e. if they had a target in mind and it was close but didn't happen, then say that. You don't need to name names and you don't need to give dates and you don't need to give figures, but you have to give us something and tell the fans what is going on, or at least give them something, because otherwise if you sit there and give it the chemical alley, or comical alley rather, I think that the fans are going to destroy you. I really do. And Alex, I just don't see, if the board try to tough this out, I don't see it ending well for them.
It won't, no. They've at least, I was half expecting a pre-prepared questions thing to come in. So at least they've kind of faced up to a bit of that, or so it would seem. No, it's you've got to be honest here. Really, when you think of what this board has done for us and where we were before they came in and all that, it's kind of ridiculous that in such a short space of time they've managed to burn all their credit. That's unreal. That's a lottery winner bankrupt inside 2 years. It's like
a Mikey Carroll job. Absolutely.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah. That almost shouldn't be possible given where we were, the absolute mess, everything, and what they've done for us. They should be getting lauded wherever they go and never have to buy another pint in Scotland again. But already, because of a couple of failed management choices, and sometimes that's not always their fault, but they're going to carry the can for that anyway. And some seeming inaction, God knows if it has been or not, but it certainly looks like it. That's it. It's turned already. Some of the questions are going to end up being quite aggressive, I'd imagine, actually. Someone's going to say, why is that idiot in a job? Or words along those lines towards Stuart Robertson, guaranteed.
Yes.
Someone is going to ask why he's still here, what is he doing? And you were right, a couple of pods ago you had a better defence for him than the club's managed in any time since he's come in. It's strange to think that's the way it's going to be. You're right, they have to hold their hands up. If they don't come out and say in the pre-prepared statement at its first, which will point to accounts, the end of the Sports Direct deal, the hiring of a director of football, more structure being put in place, the move for the youths. There's a lot of positive stuff going on. There is, but the fans don't want to hear it. They want to hear why the fuck we're taking so long to get a manager. And if they don't say something in that pre-prepared statement, never mind later on in the questions, that'll be enough. That'll be enough for people to just go, done with this nonsense, and start getting a bit angry about it.
Ian, what concerns me is I think that the tone that's come from the board through its official and its unofficial channels has been quite high-handed, and I don't think that they are reading the mood of the support correctly. And I think if they go into the shell of you should be more grateful to us, it's not going to work. And maybe it's an argument, but again, I'm a big one for, you need to focus on what a situation is rather than what a situation should be. And I'm concerned that they are developing the bunker mentality and are kind of going to come across with this attitude, because if that happens, if it becomes confrontational, then they'd be as well, trying to hire that wee tent that the Spivs had and sit 400 yards away, because the reaction will be the same. And as Alex touched upon, that's tragic for what they did and from where they were. But they can't then go into high-handed owner mode, because if you do that and you try to do that to fans, you stop any credit that you've got with the fans, because then they think, they've lost touch with us.
It's and if they do that, it's David Murray latter years all over again. And it's got an air of simply don't give a fuck what the customer base either wants to hear or wants to know or whatever. Just pay your money, sit down, fuck up and get on with it. Go back to what we said a couple of pods ago. The board is largely made up of highly successful businessmen, and I find it baffling, bizarre, just mad that they couldn't read their customer base, they couldn't read the mood, they don't know what the music feels like. I find that bizarre. I also find bizarre that they would actively then try and piss them off. I am fully expecting, in my cynical, pessimistic mode, I am fully expecting when you add Trainer into that mix, fully expecting high-handedness at the start, look at what we've done for you. I'm fully expecting the Q&As to be stage managed with questions about Rene Gattuso and the price of pies and the quality of the cheeseburgers. And if that happens, all hell will break loose. There's no two ways about it. What I want is, I want no cute side bites. I don't want woe is me stuff. I want fairly fact-based stuff, especially around planning, that the board can be measured against. This is our the wider company and the footballing board. They should be measured against key deliverables and key outcomes. It's the AGM. They need to be stating what those are. And so I would be expecting, and this would be, again, go back to leaders lead. I would want an apology for the past month. They've got to go in and read the mood music and say, do you know what, guys, sorry, but fine, tell the story. I think just a background to that, doing the math earlier, we've been rudderless for 2 months of 9 playing months so far this year. We had a month out after Warburton and a month out after Murty, give or take. 22% of the playing year so far, we haven't had a full-time manager. So they've got to address that, because frankly, I think for well-paid executives like Stuart Robertson, that's not good enough. I want them to talk about the high level. Forget the past, forget it's been and gone. They've been lauded. They've been, as Alex said, they shouldn't have to buy a pint, but it's been and gone. I want the high level plan for investment and possibly some potential options around it going forward. It was one of their stated aims when they took power. We're 2+ years on, and I understand the journey that we've been on and the constraints and so on, but we need to see the outline plans. We need to see those fast, but we also need to see the outline timescales for those investment plans, because we can't just spin on the spot. We have to see how we move forward. And I also wanted to talk about, new manager comes in, bare expectations for this season are, is it still second? Is it still a cup final? Is it still a whatever? Yeah, because there's a real sense that the board have chucked the towel in this season, and it's only November.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that's concerning most punters, is it does appear that this is another season that's being written off, and there does come a point. I'm a great believer in, you have aims that are short term, medium term, and long term, and you can't get too focused on any one of them. You can't like when people always say about a new signing, they will say, "Oh, no resale value," and I'm like, well, sometimes that's okay, because we need to win games this season rather than 2-3 years away. And I think that if the board think that they can say, well, yeah, but in the long term this is going to be a benefit, they use that up with the Pedro move, and they can't do that now. I think that they have to address the short term issues, and I know that won't be pleasant, but it's something they have to do. And someone has actually, a few people have said to me on Twitter, David, you should go along and you should ask questions, because one of the things is that the much sort of vaunted term that people say are the much used one is prominent supporter, and I don't really feel like that, to be honest. But one of the reasons I don't get involved is that I did supporter activism, for want of a better term, for 10 years, and it nearly killed me. And I'm not doing that again. So the podcast will have a reaction to the pod, but I am just a fan and happy to be just a fan, and we yes, it's great we've got this platform to speak to people, but it is still just me and my mates talking about Rangers, and all you guys are invited into it, and I'm no different from anybody else in terms of going along and trying. But I mean, Ian, you saw me back in the day. What did 10 years of doing that do to me?
Fucking hell. Wait, where'd you start with that?
Yeah.
You started off young slim guy who liked the odd drink, and at the end of it you were a fucking
rehab
raging alky cokehead rehab. Yeah.
So for obvious reasons and for promises I've made to my family, it's not something I'm getting involved in. So there's a whole generation of bears out there that can do that, but we will report from it. But just to let you know, just in case you're thinking, well, why aren't you there leading the charge? That's why. And I think that sometimes you have to put the family first, and in that case, that's definitely.
I do believe though, David. You've got large supporters organisations out there. Formerly it was the Trust. Formerly it was Rangers First. Come together. Club 1872. Club 1872. From a credibility point of view, this is a bit of a crossroads.
Yeah.
But they need to be front and centre, and I genuinely believe that they will. They've been quite vocal over the past couple of days, but it has to be front and centre. It has to be impartial from the club, and their support base has to be using those forums. As I say, my main concern is it becomes two-stage managed, and it becomes Murray-esque, and all hell breaks loose.
Alex, final word on the AGM?
Here's a question, guys. Sorry, maybe it drags on a bit longer than you were expecting, but do you think there's a chance the current directors don't genuinely believe that the fans are more concerned about finances and club survival than they are about results and the managerial position? Do you think there's a chance after the past 5-6 years they think our priorities have shifted and that they are acting in a way that tries to mirror that?
I think that's a good question. I don't think that they think that exactly, but what I suspect they think is that the last kind of, well, if you go back, obviously you remove the kind of con men and spivs, but when Murray was there, that he didn't act as a custodian of the club, and he didn't put the club's best interests first, which is correct, incidentally. He gambled the club's future and he lost. And he had no right to do that, owner or not, because no man owns Rangers Football Club, the supporters own it. And I think that they feel that they have to be above, if you like, concerns about week-to-week results, and I think that they feel that they have a larger duty, which they do, but my argument would be that you also still have the day-to-day duty, and it's great that you are focusing on building a proper sustainable Rangers that will go on for decades and won't be put in the position that it was put in. But at the same time, the very nature of a football club is to get good results on the football field, and I think that they have to strike a balance between the two aspects, and at the moment I'm not sure they've got that correct. So I don't think they're going in there saying, you know, like if they put forward decent figures and the crowd are kind of going boo, that they'd be shocked. I don't believe that, but I think that they feel that they have to be less reactive to day-to-day pressures than maybe previous boards and owners were.
Yeah. Go on, sorry, on you go.
Sorry, just going to add to that, David. Yeah, I agree with that. I do think with some of the personnel on the board, however, that were there under the Murray regime, it's kind of hard. You know, Leopard changing spots and all that kind of stuff, David. You know, I find it difficult to believe that there's not an air of fucking ungrateful bastards, we saved the club. I find it difficult to believe that that's not in there.
I think that'll be the back of their minds, and people shouldn't be upset about this, because trust me, I've worked in customer facing roles, and nobody despises their customers more than people that have to deal with them. And I don't think they despise us at all. I think previous owners did, but I don't think they do. But you do, when you're in the kind of trenches, if you like, you do go, what are they moaning about now? It's human nature, because nobody ever praises you for the good stuff you do. But they all complain about, you know, any mistakes that you make, and that I think is human nature. It's happened to me when I've been working in customer facing roles, where you do think, you know, ungrateful moaning bastards. Because you do so much that they don't comment on, and then the second you put a foot out of line, they do jump on you. And it's happened, you know, anyone I know who's at a customer facing role will tell you the same thing. So yeah, I mean, that will be in their thinking, but I don't think they're contemptuous of us the way that previous boards were. Alex, your question, but what do you think on it?
No, that's fair. I wouldn't imagine they would be the contentious, as you said. No, definitely not. I was just worried that they might be. You're right, they shouldn't be. I'm very much of the opinion they should be above the day-to-day reactive nature of the fans, because, you know, if a football club was run that way, it wouldn't get anywhere. But I just worry that they're too far above it, and it's sort of almost thinking, well, you know, but we're never going to win the league this year anyway, so don't worry too much about it. Whereas, you know, a lot of fans, despite a relatively slow start, we're still dreaming, you know. And the minute you start taking that away from a football fan, that's when the issues really kick in. So
absolutely,
I think there's a concern that I just thought that maybe they didn't. You're right, they don't have the right balance, but I think they maybe swing a bit further at the side that we as fans don't really want than you're maybe suggesting, actually.
I get it and I understand it, because we can't put through future generations 2012 again, ever. And I'm glad that they think that way. And to be fair, if they had to be too much one way, that would be the way I would like them to be. But I think, like you say, they just need to work on the balance and move it a bit closer. So just about to wrap up. We've gone quite long. We will be back. I'll do a video blog of on the YouTube channel. Just go to Heart and Hand Podcast on YouTube. So it's youtube.com/Heart and Hand Podcast. If you want to see that, and obviously it'll be all over the social media feed. Just a reaction to what comes out of the AGM. And we'll be back on Thursday night with a preview of the second Aberdeen game and a review of the Wednesday night one. But there's a couple of things I want to touch on now. This weekend, Saturday night, December the 2nd, we have a new podder joining the ranks, and an old one. Scott will be back for the live pod at the Loudon Tavern, and he'll be joined by Cammy Bell, but also by Kevin Thompson, and that's not just a coincidental name, it is the Kevin Thompson. Kevin will be joining us as a podder, and then I'll be interviewing him afterwards, so we'll be playing the hits. You'll get to hear the Robbie Keane story again. It's completely sold out. It's sold out in 2 minutes and 44 seconds. Completely, you cannot get a ticket for love nor money, except if you do this. A very, very kind gentleman by the name of Malcolm Smith has put up one ticket that he has spare, and I'm going to match it. So 2 tickets to see Heart and Hand live this weekend. And on top of that, he's also throwing in a signed captain's armband by John Gregg. It's not match worn, but still, signed captain's armband by John Gregg, and a signed picture of Colin Steen with the Cup Winners' Cup from Barcelona. Now, that's fantastic stuff over and above. I mean, I did try to say, fuck it, just give them the tickets. But he wasn't up for it. So if you want to do that, then the reason that he's doing this is for raising funds for a power chair football club, Glasgow Gladiators, which allows disabled people to play football and get interested in sport. It's a fantastic cause, and you can donate money to that if you go to uk.virginmoneygiving.com/Eddie Kirkwood. These guys are bears, and it's always nice to support our own. And Malcolm's raising money for that. So if you want to bid for it, there are no bids at the moment. If you bid 30 quid, then you could get it. So you might as well, because what if you're sitting there going, I'll probably go for Hunters. I hope it does, right? I mean, come on, that's a lot of stuff, right? The tickets are worth 20 quid anyway, and that's before a black market add-on. But if you go and just go into Twitter, tag me and I'll tag Malcolm in, and just bid. Be it 20, 40, 50, 60. If you've got 100 to spare, great. If you've got 200 to spare, great. Look at what you're getting for it. And on the night of the pod, I'll come over, meet you, you'll meet Kevin. Obviously, you'll be more interested in meeting me, but the option will be there. Get signed stuff, and you'll be singled out for doing it. So it's a fantastic chance. Please do it. The other thing, and this is where I'm grateful to my boys here, the other thing that we're doing is finally, and I know I've teased this for a few months, but the Heart and Hand subscription channel will start on Wednesday the 6th of December. People have been asking about this for a while. The cost of it is $1.99 per month, and for that you will get 20 to 25 hours extra new content per month. Lots of it different, and that's probably key. That's why we're all excited about the shows that we're going to do. The thing about it is that it's not going to be available through the traditional kind of iTunes, whatever, because you can't do a subscription service on iTunes. They don't allow it. It's through a service called Patreon, which is just go to www.patreon.com and sign up for Heart and Hand. Now, we're not available at the moment, but if you go next week, it'll be there. And then you download the app to your phone, or you can download it from a PC or a laptop or whatever, and you'll get all the podcasts that way. So that's all you need to do. It's $1.99 per month, or 20 quid for the whole year. So can't say fairer than that, I think, because even the first week, the stuff you're going to get. First of all, you're going to get a daily news show. It might just be rumours, it might just be, but I'll every day come to you with the latest news. You'll get breaking news shows. If something happens, you'll get a pod immediately. Now, I should state that the Monday podcast and the Thursday/Friday podcast, they'll stay free. That's cool. We're not going to change this. But if something happens on a Saturday, then you're going to wait. You're going to have to wait until if you're waiting on the pod, you're going to have to wait till the Monday, whereas the subscribers will get it there and then. But you also got other shows apart from that. The next one that we're doing is the Advocate Years. That's a series that details month by month what happened under Dick Advocate. The first show deals with the transfers of summer 1998, and my boy Hoggy here he's going to be one of the co-hosts of that with me. We've also got a youngster who's done all magnificent research on that, and me and Ian are going to give you our remembrances of that. That show could be it's going to be very interesting, Ian, but possibly a tad depressing.
Yeah, I think it'll also be quite enlightening for you and I to walk our way through drunken haze to actually remember what happened.
Back to the 90s. Now I'm looking forward to that. The Gallant Pioneers show with Ian McCall of the Founders Trail, it'll start with an in-depth profile of a guy massive figure in our history that doesn't get the credit he deserves, Tom Balance. That'll be a regular show as well. The head-to-head show, I'm really looking forward to this. This features two podders discussing, or arguing is probably a better term, over a chosen topic, and you guys will vote on the topic and also who won. That'll be a weekly show, and I think it's going to be great. The first one, and it features Alex here. Alex is going to argue that Kenny Miller is a Rangers legend, and Cammy is going to argue that he isn't.
This should be a lot of fun, and I can imagine the people who know me who are listening are thinking, typical Strider, he's going to go for that one. But yeah, I think it'll be good. I can imagine it being Kenny Miller as well, that there's every chance Cammy might genuinely combust.
I'm hoping you can get him to that. I'm going to be the adjudicator on these shows, and we'll see if there's a clear Heart and Hand winner at the end of the season. And of course, I mean, so you guys can join in. We'll have Q&As. I know I've done them in the international weeks. They've been quite popular, but we'll do far more regular Q&As. There'll be phone-ins and there'll be interviews with you guys, with the subscribers. This is your opportunity as well to come and talk to us. There's so much happening now. As I say, if you're happy with Heart and Hand the way it is, that's cool. Don't worry about it. It's not going to change for you guys. And if you think, nah, I'm not going to bother. But if you've got a long commute, if you go to the gym, if you like to walk the dog at night and you like a podcast to accompany you on that, $1.99 a month, 50 pence a week. I really cannot say fairer than that. And you're going to get all of this. So that's coming on Wednesday, the 6th of December. And we're going to work very hard for you. We're going to get player interviews, everything we can get. And the money that comes in will be immediately spent on, and this is not a lie, this is just a fact. Ian knows I'm married well, I'm comfortable. But this money is going to be spent on new equipment. So if you've wondered why there's not a Rangers fan TV, a la Arsenal fan TV, if money comes in, I'll buy a camera, I'll buy a mic, I'll get out there and do that. So the more this channel grows, the more the content will be. But I also want to hear your ideas for shows. If you've got an idea, great, come and tell me. It might not involve me, which would be even better because, I'm a lazy bastard. So all of that stuff, it's a really exciting time. It basically means you get your Rangers news from Rangers fans, and it basically means you get your Rangers history from Rangers fans, and there's none of this shite that you get in the mainstream media. So like I say, give us a try. If you don't like it at the end of the month, fair enough, but if you do like it, and I think you will, keep with us. So that is something that's starting soon, and it's very exciting. Now this pod has gone on forever. I remember the old days when we used to do 34 minutes and go, no, that'll do it, but the times they have changed. But all that remains for me to do is to thank our executive producer in London, Mr. Mike Lee, and Mr. Paul Miles, to thank my guests, who I think have been excellent, and not the funnest week to talk. But first of all, thank you to Alex Staff.
Cheers, David. Thanks a lot, and thank you, Ian, as well.
You want to get your plugs in?
Yes, for myself, Twitter at Strider80. 2 blogs now, would you believe? One, rangersnews.uk. The other one is fourmenhadadream.wordpress.com, and there's links on them to the Twitter pages as well.
Fantastic. And my other guest, the always remarkable Mr. Ian Hogg.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, David. Much love. Peace out.
If you want to get in touch with me, you can do so. Just go to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast on Facebook. Search for that and up will pop. But you can also talk to me on Twitter. I'm at IbroxRocks, and that's all you need to do. And I do try to get back to as many people as is humanly possible. Okay, folks, thank you very much for listening. I'll talk to you again on Thursday. My name's David Edgar. Bye.